This song is called Alice's Restaurant. It's about Alice and the restaurant, but Alice's Restaurant is not the name of the restaurant. That's just the name of the song, and, well, that's why we call this song Alice's Restaurant. You can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. You can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. Walk right in, it's around the back, just a half a mile from the railroad track. You can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. Now, it all started 4 Thanksgivings ago, that's 4 years ago on Thanksgiving, when my friend and I went up to visit Alice at the restaurant. But Alice doesn't live in the restaurant. She lives in the church nearby the restaurant in the bell tower with husband Ray and Facha the dog. And living in the bell tower like that, they got a lot of room downstairs where the pews used to be in, and having all that room, seeing as they took out all the pews, they decided that they didn't have to take out their garbage for a long time. Well, we got up there and found all the garbage in there, and we decided that it'd be a friendly gesture for us to take the garbage down to the city dump. So we took the half-ton of garbage and put it in the back of a red VW microbus, took shovels and rakes and implements of destruction, and headed on toward the city dump. Well, we got there, and there was a big sign and a chain across the dump saying, "This dump is closed on Thanksgiving," and we'd never heard of a dump being closed on Thanksgiving before, and with tears in our eyes, we drove off into the sunset looking for another place to put the garbage. Didn't find one until we came to the side road, and off the side of the side road there was another 15-foot cliff, and at the bottom of the cliff was another pile of garbage, and we decided that one big pile was better than 2 little piles, and rather than bring that one up, we decided to throw ours down. That's what we did. Drove back to the church, had a Thanksgiving dinner that couldn't be beat, went to sleep, and didn't get up till the next morning when we got a phone call from Officer Obie. He said, "Kid, we found your name on an envelope at the bottom of a half-ton of garbage and just wanted to know if you had any information about it." I said, "Yes, sir, Officer Obie, I cannot tell a lie. I put that envelope under that garbage." And after speaking to Obie for about 45 minutes on the telephone, we finally arrived at the truth of the matter, and he said that we had to go down and pick up the garbage, and also had to go down and speak to him at the police officer's station. So we got in the red VW microbus with the shovels and rakes and implements of destruction and headed on toward the police officer's station. Now, friends, there was only one of 2 things that Obie could have done at the police officer's station, and the first was that he could have given us a medal for being so brave and honest on the telephone, which wasn't very likely, and we really didn't expect it, and the other thing was that he could have bawled us out and told us never to be seen driving garbage around the vicinity again, which is what we expected. But when we got to the police officer's station, there was a third possibility that we hadn't even counted upon, and we was both immediately arrested, handcuffed, and said, "Obie, I don't think I can pick up the garbage with these handcuffs on." He said, "Shut up, kid," and get in the back of the patrol car, and that's what we did, sat in the back of the patrol car and drove to the, quote, "scene of the crime," unquote. I want to tell you about the town of Stockbridge, Massachusetts, where this is happening. They got 3 stop signs, 2 police officers, and 1 police car. But when we got to the scene of the crime, there was 5 police officers and 3 police cars, being the biggest crime of the last 50 years, and everybody wanted to get in a newspaper story about it. And they was using up all sorts of cop equipment they had hanging around the police officer's station. They was taking plaster, tire tracks, footprints, dog-smelling prints, and they took 27 8x10 color glossy photographs with circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one explaining what each one was to be used as evidence against us. Took pictures of the approach to the getaway, the northwest corner, the southwest corner, and that's not to mention the aerial photography. After the ordeal, we went back to the jail. Obie said he was going to put us in his cell. He said, "Kid, I'm going to put you in his cell. want your wallet and your belt. Said, Obie, I can understand you wanting my wallet so I don't have any money to spend in the cell, but what do you want my belt for? He says, kid, we don't want any hangings. I said, Obie, do you think I was going to hang myself for littering? Obie said he was just making sure, and friends, Obie was, 'cause he just took out the toilet seat so I couldn't hit myself over the head and drown, and took out the toilet paper so I couldn't bend the bars, roll the toilet paper out the window, slide down the roll, and have an escape. Obie was making sure. It was about 4 or 5 hours later that Alice, remember Alice? It's a song about Alice. Alice came by and with a few nasty words to Obie on the side, bailed us out of jail and went back to the church and had another Thanksgiving dinner that couldn't be beat and didn't get up till the next morning when we all had to go to court. We walked in, sat down. Obie came in with 27 8x10 colored glossy pictures with the circles and arrows and the paragraph on the back of each one. Obie sat down. Man came in, said, all rise. We all stood up, and Obie stood up with the 27 8x10 colored glossy pictures, and Judge walked in, sat down with a CNI dog, and CNI dog sat down, and we sat down. Obie looked at the CNI dog. Then he looked at the 27 8x10 color glossy pictures with the circles and arrows and the paragraph on the back of each one. Then he looked at the CNI dog. Then at the 27 8x10 color glossy pictures with the circles and arrows and the paragraph on the back of each one, and he began to cry because Obie came to the realization that it was a typical case of American blind justice and there just wasn't nothing he could do about it. And Judge was not going to look at the 27 8x10 color glossy pictures with the circles and arrows and the paragraph on the back of each one explaining what each one was to be used as evidence against us. And we was fined $50 and had to pick up the garbage in the snow. That's not what I'm here to tell you about. I'm here to talk about the draft. They got a building down in New York City called Whitehall Street where you walk in, get injected, inspected, detected, infected, neglected, and see elected. Went down and got my physical examination one day, and I walked down, sat down, got good and drunk the night before, so I looked and felt my best when I went in that morning, 'cause I wanted to look like the all-American kid from New York City. I wanted to be the all-American kid from New York. I walked in, sat down, I was hung down, brung down, hung up, and all kinds of mean, nasty, ugly things, and walked in, sat down, they gave me a piece of paper that said, kid, see the psychiatrist, room 604. Went up there and I said, shrink, I want to kill. I want to kill. I want to see blood and gore and guts and veins in my teeth. Eat dead, burnt bodies, I mean, kill. Kill. And I started jumping up and down, yelling, kill, kill. And he started jumping up and down with me, and we was both jumping up and down, yelling, kill, kill. And this sergeant came over, pinned a medal on me, sent me down the hall, said, you're our boy. Didn't feel too good about it, and proceeded on down the hall, getting more injections, inspections, detections, neglections, all kinds of stuff they was doing to me. The thing there, I was there for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. I was there for a long time going through all kinds of mean, nasty, ugly things, and I was having just a tough time there, and they was inspecting, injecting every single part of me, and they was leaving no part untouched. Proceeded through, and I finally came to see the very last man. I walked in, sat down. After a whole big thing there, I walked up and I said, what do you want? He says, kid, we only got one question. Have you ever been arrested? And I proceeded to tell him the story of the Alice's Restaurant Masacree with the full orchestration and 5-part harmony and stuff like that and other phenomena. He stopped me right there. He says, kid, have you ever been to court? And I proceeded to tell him the story of the 27 8x10 colored glossy pictures with the circles and arrows and the paragraph on the back of each one. He stopped me right there. He says, kid, I want you to go over and sit down on that bench that says Group W. Now, kid. I walked over to the bench there, and it's Group W is where they put you if you may not be moral enough to join the Army after committing your special crime. There was all kinds of mean, nasty, ugly-looking people on the bench there. There was mother rapers and father stabbers, father rapers sitting right there on the bench next to me, and they was mean and nasty and ugly and horrible and crime familiar guys sitting right there on the bench, and the meanest, ugliest, nastiest one, the meanest father raper of them all was coming over to me, and he was mean and ugly and nasty and horrible and all kinds of things, and he sat down next to me. He says, "Kid, what'd you get?" I said, "I didn't get nothing. I had to pay $50 and pick up the garbage." He said, "What were you arrested for, kid?" I said, "Littering." And they all moved away from me on the bench there with the hairy eyeball and all kinds of mean, nasty things until I said, "And creating a nuisance." And they all came back and shook my hand. We had a great time there on the bench talking about crime, mother stabbing, father raping, all kinds of groovy things we was talking about on the bench there, and everything was fine. We was smoking cigarettes and all kinds of things. Until the sergeant came over, he had a piece of paper in his hand. He held it up. He said, "Kid, this piece of paper got 47 words, 37, 7, 50 word. We want no details of crime, crime, anything got to say pertaining to about the crime. We want no rest, no any kind of thing." They talked for 45 minutes, and nobody understood a word that he said. We had fun filling out the forms and playing with the pencils on the bench there, and filled out the Masacree with the 4-part harmony, wrote it down just like it was, and everything was fine. And I put down my pencil and I turned over the piece of paper, and there on the other side, in the middle of the other side, away from everything else on the other side, in parentheses, capital letters, quotated, I read the following words: "Kid, have you rehabilitated yourself?" I went over to the sergeant. I said, "Sergeant, you got a lot of goddamn gall to ask me if I rehabilitated myself. I mean, you want to send, I'm sitting here on the bench. I'm sitting here on the Group W bench because you want to know if I'm moral enough to join the army, burn women, kids' houses, and villages after being a litter bug." He looked at me, he says, "Kid, we don't like your kind. We're going to send your fingerprints off to Washington, and friends, somewhere in Washington, enshrined in some folder, is a study in black and white of my fingerprints. And the only reason I'm singing you the song now is because you may know somebody in a similar situation, or you may be in a similar situation, and if you're in a situation like that, there's only one thing you can do. Just walk into the shrink, and, walk into the shrink wherever you are. Just walk in and say, 'Shrink, you can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant,' and walk out. If one person, just one person does it, they may think he's really sick and they won't take him, and 2 people do it in harmony, they may think they're both faggots and they won't take either one of them. And if 3 people do it, can you imagine 3 people walking in, singing the bar at Alice's restaurant and walking out? They may think it's an organization. And can you imagine 50 people a day, I say 50 people a day, walking in, singing the bar at Alice's restaurant and walking out? Friends, they may think it's a movement, and that's what it is. It's the Alice's Restaurant Anti-Masacree Movement. All you gotta do to join is sing it the next time it comes around on the guitar with feeling. We're just waiting for it to come around on the guitar now. Get ready, here it comes. You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant, except in Alice. You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. Walk right in, it's around the back, just a half a mile from the railroad track. You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. Walk right in, it's around the back, just a half a mile from the railroad track. You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. Da 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 da, at Alice's restaurant.
and sing you a song. Just 44 verses, it won't take me long. It's about my adventures, they're known near and far, of me and the world's most fantastic guitar. With the cowboys and sunsets and 3 plastic coats, she's beautifully stenciled with musical notes. With a bright orange sequin, she shines like a star. My Jean Audrey autographed by Louis Vuitton. She arrived from Sears Roebuck one dark stormy night. I opened the package, she dazzled my sight. From the dark of the bedroom, poor Rose with a shout.
Papa Massey, it's midnight and the sun done come out.
With the cowboys and sunsets and 3 plastic coats, she's beautifully stenciled with musical notes. With the bright orange sequin, she shines like a star. My Jean Audrey autographed by Louis Vuitton. I sat down at once and commenced for to play. I played Rock of Ages before the next day.
The glory, says Granny, our boy will go far with his wonderful newfangled violin guitar.
With her cowboys and sunsets and 3 plastic coats, she's beautifully stenciled with musical notes. With a bright orange sequin, she shines like a star. My Jean Audrey autographed by the guitar. My skill it increased and my fame quickly spread. As faster and faster my fingers they sped, I gained reputation, became quite a star. Me and my Jean Audrey by Louis Vuitton. With the cowboys and sunsets